So overall, I found that making a documentary was a very effective way of improving my understanding of the novel because throughout the whole process, we had to study the book in order to extract information that we could use for our documentary. So doing research on residential schools, I found was pretty easy because everybody in my group already had like past knowledge on it to use as a foundation, and then in addition to that, we just did research online. However, that was where our first obstacle came up because even online, it was hard to find like any articles or websites that supported the Western bias, which is what we needed for our documentary. And basically, they all supported or were told from the view of the natives. Our second obstacle would be basically the whole planning process. So initially, we wanted to present the expected bias, which is residential schools are bad, because in Three Day Road, that is the message that readers receive from Niska and Xavier, who are the speakers. However, we didn't want to be too basic and decided that we should try to present the counter bias, and we had to scrap our first idea. So now we are focusing on portraying the message that residential schools are good. Again, it was almost impossible to use the book because the speakers, Xavier and Niska, were against them. As a result, planning took a long time and we had to consider how we can use different things such as different settings or the tone of voice to convey our message. And yeah, not just rely on the proof. Personally, my favorite part was creating the Draw My Life segment. I found it to be a very fast paced, intriguing, and unique way of conveying a message and telling a story. I think working with my friends made the project a lot more fun and definitely a lot less stressful, especially because my group is very hardworking and open minded. And yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how the documentary turned out.
Overall, I like this project. Usually I don't like these kind of projects just because I find that it's a bit too much freedom for me personally. But with this project, I thought it was a cool, different way to study a book that I had never done. One of the things that I think my group had a little bit of trouble with was finding quotes and research that we could actually fit in our documentary. This is because once we sat down and planned it out, we realized we wanted to go kind of the unpopular way and do the white bias to challenge ourselves. And this made it challenging because the book and most reliable sources wrote in an Indian bias. So we had to find different ways that we could put that in our documentary without it kind of contradicting what we were trying to prove. Also, but once we got to filming, it was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what other groups made.
Okay, so for my video reflection, I just wanted to say that I really liked this project because it was really refreshing and it was something that we'd never done before, so it was really nice to do something new. And yeah, another thing I liked was the freedom we got over the project. It really was a large area of things we could cover, and then we kind of got free reign over all that stuff, and we got to decide what we wanted to do. A difficulty though was because of that free reign and the freedom, it was hard to come up with specific ideas because there was so much to cover. So yeah, it made it hard to decide what we wanted to do. For example, in the beginning we decided to do a documentary with a strong native bias. However, later on we decided to change that into a bias towards the Wamistiko because we thought it would show our understanding better and it would challenge us more, so we would show that we actually read the book and we actually thought about what we wanted to put in the documentary. Another thing we had trouble with was filming. A lot of us are kind of busy. Some of us have sports and trips and other projects because it's so close to exam time, and you know it got kind of hard. But we found ways to come to school and film, and we figured it out in the end. We pushed through the difficulties. Another hard thing was doing the research because we chose such a weird bias, like a unpopular bias. It was hard to find stuff online, and also in the book they have a native bias, so we really had to look for things that that we could use in the book and online. And yeah, it was a good project overall, and I really liked it. I hope I do more things like this in the future. Another difficulty is because it was so close to exam time, we were kind of swamped with work from other classes, so maybe if the project would have been given earlier on in the year, it would have been easier, but all in all, it was a good project, and I enjoyed it a lot.
To begin, I was really excited for this project as I love documentaries in general and also video editing and filming, and with this being such a huge project that worked out really well. Initially, during our planning stages, we had decided on doing the bias of the Cree people, so showing that residential schools are bad. But that's where we came across our first problem. Is this too simple of an idea? Is it too basic? Is it enough to make your documentary go above and beyond? And then another problem with that idea, showing that residential schools are bad, is that a lot of our ideas that we had came up with for the documentary were actually very offensive. Even though a lot of those ideas were actually really funny, they're really offensive. So eventually we decided to completely scratch the idea, start fresh, and do the bias of the Wimistico shoot, showing that residential schools are good. However, there are obstacles to this idea as well, as it was really hard to find information of this bias online and quotations within the book, but it was a good way to challenge ourselves. Another problem we faced was that a lot of our group members actually had field trips to go to and sporting events as well. So in order to accommodate that, we all worked ahead, finished everything in order to get everything done in time. That obstacle actually showed me how much I really like my group because they're all really hardworking and they'll get things done in time and they won't leave stuff off for other people to do. They're all responsible for their own work and what they have to get done. And working with my friends made this project a lot more fun, as when coming up with ideas, we weren't worried about whether the other person was judged the idea. We're all really comfortable with sharing our ideas for the project, and that worked out really well because we're all able to bounce ideas off one another as well. In conclusion, I really enjoyed this project. I thought it was a great way to show our understanding of the novel in such a creative way as well. And I wish more teachers would do this, and I'm really excited to see what other kids come up with.